Welcome back to another episode of the Recruitment Mentors podcast. I'm your host, Hisham Aziz, and on this week's episode, I was joined by Phoebe Stowe-Forbes, who is the founder of an accountancy and finance recruitment business based in Lancashire called Recruit. In this episode, we really sort of dug deep into what that business journey has been like over the last 3 years, where she started the business just before COVID, so she had to navigate that, and how she's been on a journey on uncovering what type of business it is that she wants to build, how she's being able to really double down on service and how they've become the number one accountancy finance recruiter in the local area, and so much more. I love Phoebe's passion, her energy, and I'm really excited to see where she takes her recruitment business over the coming years. Enjoy. Phoebe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. So excited.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for making the trip.
Yeah, no worries.
Haven't had too many Northerners yet on the pod in here.
Have you had any female Northerners yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had Amy actually, didn't you? Yeah.
So, look, where we always like to start is sort of just to get your thoughts on like what you believe are the characteristics, traits that you find are common in sort of modern day recruiters, high performers. Like what is it that you think make up today's sort of highest performing recruiters, do you think?
Do you know, I feel as though this is something that I've put a lot of thought into as I'm recruiting for my team. And I don't know if there's any like one magic formula. People might disagree, but I think the one thing I've noticed time and time again that seems to translate to a really good recruiter is, you know, when you get someone that is driven by more than just billings, you know, they're kind of like, they've got that higher purpose, they want to achieve something, they want to be the best, they want it, if you know what I mean, they want it enough. And I don't know whether, like, I think of all the highest billers that I've ever worked with, they were driven by something, and whether they tapped into what that was, I think it helps to know. But whether they tapped into it or not, it was what got them picking up the phone every day. It's what got them in early, got them staying late. And I know, like, in myself, when I've had periods of time where I've got other things going on, usually that I've needed a bit more money for, like I'm buying a house or doing it up or whatever, that's always helped me just get my head down and just crack on. Like I really wanted it in that moment. Yeah,
I like that. And have you sort of figured out how you uncover that in an interview environment?
I think it's tough because I think it's always changing. Like, depending on what you've got going on in your life, usually if you've got like a big milestone that you're working towards, you might be a little bit more motivated when you've got something in particular you're working towards. But sometimes you haven't got anything in particular that you're working towards. And what I'm trying to figure out is how, you know, where is there that consistency? You know, these people that really get their head down, regardless of what they've got going on, and they're just consistent day in, day out. And I think that's what contributes overall. It's those baby steps every single day, isn't it? And then you look at the year and you've absolutely smashed it. So I do think a lot of it does come down to drive and motivation and work ethic and wanting it, really.
So obviously, I was saying earlier, obviously these conversations go really quick. So I'm really keen to really, get into the detail of the last 3 years. Obviously, for the last 3 years, you've been building your own recruitment business, Recruit. But I guess let's just spend a couple of moments just talking a bit before that. Obviously, before you started your own business, how many years was it that you worked at another agency?
7.5, I think.
For one agency?
For one agency, yeah.
Climbed the ranks.
Yeah. A lot changed over that time, actually. So I got to see, I want to say I got to see a few different businesses, even though it was just one. Because when I started, it was quite a very small, niche boutique agency. And then they became part of a PLC, part of a wider group. And the dynamic of the business changed over time. So I was quite lucky to see that.
You got exposure to different things, yeah. So I guess what I always like to hear from people, and I know other people like to hear it as well, like who was Phoebe before recruitment?
So I got into recruitment when I was 19. So if I cast my mind back to who I was maybe when I was at school, I wasn't really sort of exceptional at anything. I was pretty average at everything. Do you know what I mean? So like sports, academically, I was just bang on average. I hadn't really found my thing. So when I got into recruitment at 19, I fell into it really because I didn't want to go to uni, and there was a lot of pressure to go to uni from grandparents and things, and I thought, I can't do it. I don't know what I want to do. So I got into recruitment and kind of finally realised that that's my thing. Like, I can control how good I am at this. And you don't really have to be particularly talented. There's certain personality traits that help, obviously, but I think that was the first time in my life that I was like, wow, I'm actually really good at this, and I can be really good at this, and it's all within my control. It's not purely based on talent.
It's such a moment, that, isn't
Yeah.
it? A lot of people can go out their entire life looking for that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it can be, because for me, I had no idea, and then I found myself in a sales role, and then I was like, oh my God, like you just said, I can get paid for the hard work that I put in, and I control that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that. Just quickly, because I think this will be helpful for people. A lot of people listen to this podcast who are young, maybe graduated from uni, maybe considering going. Advice for people that are having to deal with their parents' pressure of like, Phoebe, go to uni, it's going to make us look good. We want to be able to tell people that our child's going to Oxford. Like, that's a real thing that a lot of people have to sort of deal with and navigate with.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that, and advice for others?
Oh, do you know, it was so tough, because a little bit of background to it. My granddad was pretty much like rags to riches story. Like, he was an orphan, grew up in an orphanage, and worked from the age of 7 on Preston Fish Market and grafted so that he could provide for his family. So I was very fortunate that he picked out a really good school for me and my sister, and for 2 of my cousins. And so the pressure was on to make something of yourself, because he'd sacrificed so much to get us in that position. And it was really them that, out of the 4 of us, myself and my cousins, it kind of became apparent that if anyone's going to go to uni, it's going to be me. So I was a bit like, oh, shit, how do I say, or how do I prove that not going is going to be the right thing? So that's probably what drove me in the early days. But I think all I can say to anybody in that position is, I personally don't regret not going to uni. Actually, I think it was the best thing I could have done. I look at when I'm paying my team and I'm looking at the student loan on the pay slips, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I don't have to pay that back. But yeah, I think if you know what you want to do, absolutely stick by it, and hopefully your parents will trust that you'll have it all figured out.
How have family relationships been? Like, sometimes they can be damaged, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're very proud of where I am now, and my granddad, you know, he was in sales his entire life. You have to be when you've got your own businesses. And, you know, he's proud, especially now that he's seen that I've, you know, it's been 10 years later now that I'm actually 3 years into my business. And I can tell, but I mean, he's a sort that always wants to push you, so he doesn't want to give you too much credit for it. So, but no, it paid off. And I think anybody that I speak to in the same situation has said the same. Like, they didn't go. And if anything, that gave them something to prove. And that's what was the driving force behind them doing really well.
Thanks for sharing that.
That's
right. So let's talk about these 3 years then, right? So .recruit is your own recruitment business. Yeah. I guess let's just start with, what was it that you believed you could and wanted to do differently from, obviously, that amount of time that was with the other business? Yeah. A lot of people, when they think about going out on their own, sometimes a big driver, besides being their own boss, wanting to make money for themselves rather than the company, is like, I really believe that I can do this better. I really believe I can do things differently. What was that for you?
So it was never really about the money. I think it was for me, it was more about, as the business that I worked for grew, I started to see that there was more of an emphasis on quantity over quality. And it was all about the money for the business. And I'd spent a long time building my relationships, and the more I climbed the ladder, the more I realised it was really tough to meet these really, really high targets and preserve these relationships that I'd spent such a long time building. And I wasn't prepared for anything to sacrifice those relationships, because that was what was most important to me. So I think the vision with .recruit, I never planned to grow the business, actually. I was leaving to be a bit of a one-woman band, a bit of a freelancer, just working with the clients I already had. And I think it's really it was all about the relationships and being that trusted go-to person. And as you know, I work a really niche market, really small local market. So it was all about the reputation and providing a great service, really, for me.
And like, what from your perspective, how was it that you was going to deliver on that? Was it just like doing the right thing? Yeah, like actually getting back, like, do you know what I mean? What were some of the core things that you think, if I do this all the time, or I commit to this, or I definitely do this in my business, then I'll achieve that. Because I think a lot of people say that, but like what does that actually mean is different to people.
I think anyone that knows me is sick of hearing me say, do the right thing, because that's actually one of our values. And we didn't realise that until kind of coming up to the end of year 2. I've never been a lover of company values. I've always thought they were just pick 3 buzzwords and we'll say they're our values. But I kind of realised that the team had something in common, and we all absolutely live and breathe the same kind of mindset around our clients. And one of them is just do the right thing by people. And I'm a big believer that everything else just falls into place and follows if you just focus on, spend your time wisely, obviously, but do the right thing, and ultimately everything else pays off.
Love that. So as well, I think recruitment is very competitive. I think just for context, when you were saying there that you work in a local niche market, so like for you that's accountancy and finance.
Yeah.
In Lancashire.
In Lancashire, yeah.
That's
tiny.
That's the focus, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about. I'm assuming here that that market is still competitive.
Yeah, it is.
So like, how did you go about thinking? I think you've done a really good job on the branding front.
Thank you.
But like, I think that's another sort of key bit that a lot of people are concerned about when going out on their own, is like, how am I gonna stand out? There's so many different recruitment companies, it's gonna be so competitive. Like, how did you think about, what was the plan or strategy around how am I gonna make .recruit also look and feel different, and actually has a USP in the market, which is for most people very competitive?
Yeah. So I think everything came down to just posting regularly on LinkedIn and just being authentic, and just, I think me and you had a chat once and did a little bit of a session on what to post, and I think it was just you getting a little bit of a roll with it, and all of a sudden I noticed that I was getting quite a bit of decent engagement, and I felt like there was quite a lot of people rooting for me as well, like people that I knew, clients and candidates, just really kind of rooting for me, and that spurred me on. And actually looking back, I did a post the other day on the best 3 decisions that I made in that first year, and one of them was investing time in building a personal brand, because within 6 months that was already paying off. And I think it was in the way that I'd be making a BD call, and when I introduce myself, they go, "Oh yeah, I've seen you on LinkedIn," and I'd be like, "Wow, this is a massive door opener." And some of them, it was hilarious. There's some of them that were like a little bit starstruck. I bet you get that a lot, actually. But some of them where they were a little bit like, "Oh, the famous Phoebe Stowe ringing me," and I'm like, great. Like, it's just as simple as getting your name seen on LinkedIn, and it opens all these doors. And part of me was kicking myself because I thought, 7 years I've been on LinkedIn as an observer, not doing anything. Where would I be if I'd have started this 7 years ago? So massive sort of, anybody that asks sort of what should I be doing, I would just say, get on LinkedIn and just post. Don't worry too much about it, just post.
And have you found then that building your own brand has directly impacted .recruit?
Absolutely, yeah. So there was a good period of time. I mean, I would still say this now, but we have had a little bit more of a push recently on BD because we're after a certain type of client. But for a good time, we didn't have to do any BD because everything was inbound.
Wow.
And it was a combination of the LinkedIn sort of presence and reviews on Google. So because we're in such a local space, I'd just ask every single candidate and client that we work with, would you just write us a review, an honest review about how you found the service? And within 12 months, we were the highest rated accounts and finance recruiter in Lancashire on Google.
That's what you want to be if you're just focusing on Lancashire.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things that I don't like blowing my own trumpet at all. So I think when you can say, like, you know, have a look at us on Google, and all of a sudden we're like there with our 65-star reviews, and I'm like, there you go, like it. Or people would type in accountancy recruiter Lancashire, and because of all the reviews, we'd be straight to the top. So that helps.
No, that's brilliant. So let's talk about this first year.
Yeah.
How difficult was it? I think a lot of people can advertise and make this recruitment entrepreneurial journey look very sexy, and sort of outside looking in, you just see the pictures on LinkedIn when they had their record quarter and when they're hiring people.
Yeah.
But like for you and your experience, we're 3 years in now, looking back at that first year, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, when we were preparing for this at the end of that year, like you said, you didn't initially plan to grow it, but there was like 2 of you, I think, was it?
Yeah, so we set up in July 2019.
Just before COVID.
So we had 9 months before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So obviously we know that the pandemic if you're in your first year of business, that really, really wasn't ideal. So obviously that was challenging, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that 9 months in the kind of run up to the pandemic, the most difficult thing, honestly, that I would say was the isolation of, I was literally just working at my kitchen table. I'm a sociable person. I have to be around people. I can't be alone with my own brain for too long because before I know it, I'm overthinking why my gardener's not turned up today. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? So for my motivation, and I realised quite early on, I always thought I'd be this one-woman band, but quite early on I'm thinking, I need staff, I need a team, I need people around me, or I need to go and work with other people because I can't be on my own all day. It's no fun. It's boring. So that's what really I found tough. And I met Sophia. So Sophia was my first member of staff, and I met her when the business was only 4 months old. But I wanted to make sure that I had at least 6 months of her salary
runway
in the bank, so that if anything did happen, I'd give her time to get up and running. She didn't have any experience. I didn't know how well I would bring somebody on. So I said to her, look, as soon as I've got this amount of money in the bank,
we're good to
the
go.
Job's yours. And she was working for a local college. So she was in this dead stable job. And then obviously we'd said April would be a good time for her to start. And then obviously she hands notice in. The day after we're going to lockdown. And I rang her and I was like, about that notice, do you reckon you can like retract it and just kind of like stay? Because I was just thinking the risk, all my jobs had literally just been cancelled. And I'm like,
you don't know how things are going to play out.
Honestly, it was like bonkers the way that the timings were. She handed a notice in and the next day the country's locked down. So I honestly don't know what it was that made her stick with it, because we'd been having these conversations since the October before. She started the following July.
Wow.
So, but she was just determined. She really wanted to be a part of it. So yeah, by the end of the first year, we got our first office and I got my first employee. And it was then that I was like, right, this is where the fun stuff happens now, not on my own anymore.
So let's just talk about that, because I've definitely experienced that, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. So like when you say it was really challenging, like that was one of the biggest challenges, like how did you deal with that? Did you, I don't know, always end up speaking to your partner? Like, did you have friends that you can speak to? Like, how did you find ways to socialize, or I don't know, what was actually difficult about that? Because I think sometimes people can underestimate that. And I think, can take for granted that they're a part of the team, and that's one of the funnest parts about recruitment. And I think one of the hardest things that I found is definitely like, I don't know if you found this, is like, I don't know, you achieve a goal, whatever, and you just find giving yourself a high five. It's just not as fun, really.
Yeah, no, it really
like, how did you deal with that? I know you said like, I've recognised that, so I wanted to hire.
Yeah.
But like, how did you actually, what helped you deal with that? Because you still carried on with it.
Yeah. So I would say for me, the key was just getting variety. I liked to have a change of scenery from time to time and not just be sat on my own in my kitchen. So I'd go and work from a coffee shop where, even though I wasn't talking to people, there was a little bit of like a buzz around me and I could just see other stuff happening. I inquired about a few co-working spaces actually and didn't even get there before COVID hit. So that would have been an option and I think I would have quite enjoyed that. And then I had other friends that worked remotely in the jobs that they did. So one of my friends was like an online travel agent. So one day a week we'd work together.
That's nice.
But what I started to find was we had to really try and make sure we weren't distracting each other because we both worked in quite isolating jobs, and when we were together we'd just chat. So we'd have to then really hold ourselves each other accountable. So yeah.
And another common challenge I hear, I don't know how you found with this, and it may not be just specific to the first year and the entire journey so far. I think a lot of people can be very, not fearful, but when people think about setting up on their own, they're very conscious that they don't know all the business stuff, accounting, HR, all that. Like, has that been daunting for you? Have you navigated that? Has that been more challenging than you expected? Because I think that also holds a lot of people back. Yeah.
So you really need to make connections with people that know what they're doing, basically. And I think if you've got people to reach out to, like anybody in your network probably ask you, like, who would you recommend to help me get all my terms of business in place. And you probably know someone that would know someone if, it's all about having your network, I think, of people that are experts. The only thing I really know how to do is recruit. And so what I needed was sort of the back office functions in place to be able just to recruit. And
did
then
you have
let
that from
other
day
people...
one? Was it difficult
Yeah,
to
so
implement?
I actually worked with, I don't know what you'd call it, like I don't know if you call it like an incubation company, but it was actually a business that supports recruitment startups. And to be honest, if I'd have known that I was going to grow the business and be a lot bigger, whether I would have gone down that route, I'm not too sure. It's great if you're going to just be a one-person band, because they can just raise all your invoices for you, do all your accounts, do all your legal stuff, your IT stuff, your website, everything. And that was great. But the way that it is structured is you pay them sort of per invoice that you raise, you will pay them like a small percentage.
What, forever?
For like a certain period of time.
Okay, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So we set this up for like a 3-year contract, which is, I mean, it's still working quite well, and it's still at the moment cost effective, because I absolutely milk it for like I will send them
like you
everything.
really maximise the resources.
Get my money's worth.
Yeah.
And they know that, and they joke about that, how I do love to get my money's worth. But actually, the way that I look at it is, that's cheaper for me to do that than it would be to hire an IT person, an accounts person, a HR person, all the rest of it.
And it's also the time you would spend on it, thinking about it, worrying about it, that you don't have to.
Yeah.
So so people, like, would you recommend people to consider going down that route? Not the particular company that you work with, but I guess that is also something a lot of people consider, because they are wary of it, that they don't have those expertise, and that might stress them out.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, you outsource that basically.
Yeah, and there are a few other companies that do that as well. The one that there's been particular challenges with the one that I have worked with, because 12 months after I signed up with them, they were taken over and the service changed. So that's been quite a big challenge for me, because then I was tied into them. So all I would say is maybe grab 2 or 3 companies that do this thing, and find businesses that work with them and are contracted to them, if you will, like I have with mine, and ask them, call them and just ask them firsthand, how have you found it? What's good? What's not so good? And just weigh it up. Some people do that. Some people don't like the thought of being tied in. So there might even be ways that you could tie in for less amount of time. But I got a really good deal with them, to be fair. So I was pretty happy with that. But everyone's different.
And then what about, just keeping on the topic of challenges, I guess obviously second year was like COVID vibes. Yeah. Right? So let's talk about, obviously recently, not too long ago, had your 3rd year anniversary, right? Yeah. So let's just keep it to the last year. Like what have been maybe some of the challenges that you've been most surprised by, didn't expect in the last year? Because now you've got a few more people in the business. Yeah. Like, how many people are you today?
So including myself, we're a team of 5.
Yeah, 5, exactly. The last year, what have been, because I'm sure now, but going into that 3rd year, you've got a bit of a flavour of things to expect, the highs and lows. What was, some of the challenges that maybe you least expected this year?
Do you know what? Overall, I wouldn't say this. I'm really lucky right now, and I can say that there's not been a huge amount of real challenges. Year 1 was the hardest, and then since then, it's flown really nicely. But if I was to really think about what's been most difficult, I think we've made a couple of potential, I don't want to call them a hiring mistake, but we didn't quite know what we were looking for when we first hired. So we wanted an administrator. We brought somebody on the government kickstart scheme, and it wasn't quite the right fit for our business, and it wasn't actually what we needed in the end, we only brought them in on a contract, so it was all okay, and I was just glad that it wasn't permanent. And then we tried to bring another person in to do a bit of resourcing and admin, and absolutely loved her. She felt recruitment wasn't for her. But to be honest, I would have been moving her into a consultant role, because I don't think we actually needed that. So I think the challenge for us has been figuring out, what do we need as a business, and trying really hard not to follow the typical, what I've always experienced when I worked for my old company was every team of sort of 5, 6 consultants had an administrator. Actually, I don't need that. And I think that's what's been quite difficult when you bring in staff in, and it's their lives and it's your business and the team's impacted. You've got to get it right, and that's quite difficult, really.
Hey everyone, a real quick one from me. This podcast would not be possible without our amazing podcast partners, Vincere and Sourcebreaker. Because you listen to this podcast, you're able to get your hands on exclusive savings on both of these award-winning products. If you're a growing recruitment business, you have to check out Vincere, who are an all-in-one operating system for your growing recruitment business. With Sourcebreaker, if you want to make sure that all of your recruiters have the best tools on the market to stand out and beat their competition, then you have to check out Sourcebreaker. Use the link in the show notes, in the comments below, and you'll be able to get yourself exclusive savings on these amazing products. Yeah, it's funny, right? This always tends to be the most common challenge. Like
really?
Hiring for your own company.
Yeah.
I went for dinner with someone recently who, is like, 18 months into their own recruitment business journey, and he sort of said to me that the things that he thought would be the hardest, like winning new business, standing out, all of that, he's found easier.
Yeah.
And then the things that he would think he'd find easier being the hardest, like hiring for his own team, getting people bought in. Like, how have you found like the people that you've hired or hiring people, and I don't know, I don't know if you've had this like obviously it's your business, so like you're even more motivated.
Yeah.
Have you had to navigate that, or like feel like you've hired people or had to understand that these people aren't going to work as hard as you?
Well, do you know what's really interesting? I don't, this is going to sound ridiculous, I don't see it as my business.
Really?
Yeah, I see it as our business.
Okay.
Because, so there's 5 of us at the minute. For a long time there was 4, and we just had a quarter of the business each, and we were directly responsible for our little quarter of the business. And that's very much how my team see it. I don't, and I'm quite transparent with my team, I don't pay myself more than my team. The money in the bank isn't my money, it's to be reinvested, and that's how I've always seen it. And I think because of that, the people that I've got are probably quite motivated by that, rather than if it was, right, you're working for me and this is my vision and my dream and I'm going to take all the money out, or I'm going to go and set myself up for a nice little life and leave you all working here, and that wouldn't work for us. Like it's, you know, and everyone's different and everyone's motivated differently, but I know that my team are motivated by, they feel like they are a part of something, and they are a part of something, and it's ours for the taking, if you will. The market is ours. So quite lucky with that, really.
Well, and you think you've been able to make people feel, have you just been lent into being transparent and honest with everyone, and you found people bought into that? Yeah,
absolutely. Like, I was laughing because my accountant rang me at the end of the financial year and said, you do know that you've got quite a lot of money here that you could take, you know, when you get to the next tax threshold, so you can take this much as a dividend if you want to take it. And I was like, wow, I looked at what I'd paid myself for the year. I'd paid myself like 21 grand. And I was like, cool, like that's like nice. I don't need any more than that, to be honest. I live quite a simple life. But I just thought that's so funny. Like, my team have made an absolute fortune between them, obviously commission and stuff. And I'm just here like bumbling along on 21 grand a year. But I think I've always been pretty open with them about that. And I intend to carry on being quite open. And I was quite inspired in the early days. I used to go to whatever free thing I could go to just to be around people. And there was this women in business event going on. And there was this lady there called Sandy Lindsay, who has a marketing company in Manchester. And she was talking about how she put the company into employee ownership. And it really kind of sparked something for me, and I thought, that is great. Like, imagine joining a company and knowing you own a piece of it. So my team know that long term, that's on the cards if we can get it to work. So
do you think, looking back then, I've sort of found this sitting down with people like yourself or people that have been on different journeys, like when you said you started the journey, you felt like it was, maybe just going to be on yourself, one person business. Do you think, like, for people considering going on that recruitment entrepreneurial journey, that it's important to really understand what type of business that they want?
I don't think it is, really. I think you can just kind of, in a way, go with the flow with it. That's what I did anyway, and I think the reason I did that was because I didn't want to set the expectation early on that I'm going to have this massive business and massive team, because what was important to me was doing the right thing. And if somebody doesn't share that vision and that value, then we're not growing the team. And it is as simple as that. And if it just remains just me because I can't find those people, then that's fine. So I don't think you necessarily need to know how big you want to scale it. It's great if you do, because like, go hell for leather at it. But if you don't know, I think that's okay as well, just to let it organically end up.
Do you think it would have helped you though,
Would it help me?
Do you think would it help you make decisions if you knew from day one that you wanted an employee-owned company, you wanted to be a certain amount of people? I don't know. I think that because I think a lot of people can get caught up in like different. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And oftentimes it comes from a place of like not knowing like where you're going. Obviously, you can only. For me, I do really struggle when people are, where do you see the business in 5 years? For me, I really struggle with that.
Yeah, I do.
So it's
why do you struggle?
Because I just think anything can happen.
Yeah.
Basically, so I just feel like I can write down what I want it to be, but I don't know. I just feel like so many things can influence that. So for me, So I guess I'm asking that because I speak to a lot of people who, can find themselves in a difficult position, and they're like, you can then almost find yourself like, should I hire someone? Should I be doing this? And oftentimes it's because they haven't really thought about like where they want to be in another 12, 24 months time, or the type of company that they want to own.
Yeah. I've noticed that every time I have a plan, something else happens that's not that plan, but turns out to be better.
Fair. So that's been your experience?
That's been my own experience. So I feel like I can't comment on what other people should do with that. But if that, you might find the same happens, and at least have a rough kind of plan of where you want to go, but also kind of in a way, and this does not feel right for a recruiter, but kind of let go of control of it a little bit, and trust that as long as you're working hard and you're doing the right thing, good stuff's going to come from that.
Women in business.
Yeah.
Women in recruitment.
Yeah.
Do you think you've been disadvantaged?
No.
Because you've been a woman in recruitment?
No. So obviously we had a brief chat about this, didn't we? And you mentioned about a podcast that you'd listened to, which I then happened to come across and listen to about, I suppose...
People deciding.
I think we can jump on the bandwagon of, as a woman in business, it's harder for me.
Definitely in recruitment, I think that's part of the narrative. I
don't know whether sometimes it can depend on what market you're recruiting into. If you, like, for example, my sister runs a business in the motor trade. So she gets mansplained, is it mansplained? On the daily.
I don't know what that means.
So basically, a man will explain something to you that you know about.
Oh, right, okay, mansplained.
you know full well what it is, but they will explain it like you don't.
Right.
So, because my sister works with,
in the motor trade.
She sells alloy wheels. So on a daily basis.
She sells alloy wheels?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on a daily basis, she will get that kind of conversation, and that patronising sort of approach from a lot of people, and she finds that really frustrating, and actually she holds her own and she knows her stuff. So, that's great for her. So maybe in the industry that you're in, if it is, male dominated.
Did you have to navigate that while she was building your career?
Not at all. I will never. I mean, we once had a managing director as the business grew. We became part of this group. We once had a managing director who was the most sexist pig. Yeah, but he was just a dick. Do you know what I mean? He was just one on his own, and he was like that with everybody. And it wasn't because I was in recruitment. It was just because that was him. So I wouldn't say I've really come across any challenges. At all. Maybe I'm just sort of ignorant to it, and great if that's the case. But maybe I've been lucky. I don't know, but I wouldn't personally say that being a woman has got in the way of anything. We have talked about how, that one of the dilemmas I think a lot of women face so I'm 29, so I think one of the dilemmas or upcoming dilemmas is going to be, what do you do about having a family? So I think if there was going to be anything standing out about women in recruitment, it might be that. And when I've seen people I've worked with, go off and have kids and then come back to work, they've always felt this guilt around, are they doing recruitment well enough, and are they doing motherhood well enough? And how do it's very hard to balance that. And
how are you going to balance it?
So I think one of the things that drives me and always has been freedom, basically. And working in recruitment really is my ticket to freedom. And one of the things about having my own business is that I can be as flexible as I need to be, because I don't have to report to anybody. And I want my team to feel the same, that whatever flexibility you need, it's yours. So the way that I've got a great team, to be fair, and one of the things we talk about in every single one-to-one is the succession plan. And I've given myself 3 years to get the business to a point where I can leave it for a bit, for 12 months and go and have a child and then come back to it, potentially part-time. Because the way I look at the business is there are people probably better than me within my business, stronger billers than me, and probably better people managers than me in my business. So I'm not that fussed about keeping a really tight hold on that because they'll probably do a better job, to be fair. So that's how I will balance it, hopefully.
How do you think you would have balanced it if you stayed employed? Would you be more concerned?
Yeah, I would. The business I was working for, yeah, I would. Because there's no way it's hard to do a recruitment job part-time. It's really hard. It's not a part-time job. You end up trying to fit a full-time job into 4 days, and that's how it is. And I've seen that, and I've seen how draining that is. So I personally would have struggled with that. And maybe I would have moved out of recruitment. Maybe I would have gone to see if I could sell some alloy wheels with my sister instead.
Because I have like that's been the insight that I've taken from the conversations that I've had. But I would like to think that it's evolved more.
Yeah.
Because I think I've interviewed women who almost feel like they've been like hard done by
really?
When coming back.
Yeah.
Like just it's been made more difficult. Like because the perception is like you just said, can they do the job part-time? So should we just get someone that isn't going to be working part-time to work their patch, take their clients, all those things, So
I've got one of my team on mat leave at the moment, Sophia, and it's one of the, if anyone can do a full-time job part-time, it is her. Like she is like incredible, but I don't want her to feel that pressure. So she will be supported in whatever way she needs support, and she knows that. Like we'll have a chat about whatever flexibility she needs and whatever support she needs from me on her desk. Like she will get, if she needs to bring in a resourcer, that's fine. Like we'll figure it out.
I think more and more companies will have that mindset.
I hope so.
So talk to me about like, in terms of people listening to this, a subsection of people will be inspired or one day really like the idea of having their own recruitment business. Sort of knowing what you know now, what would you sort of, what advice would you offer to these people that you think would put them in the best position to have the start that they really want to have?
Yeah, okay.
What comes up for you on that?
So a few things. If they're just starting out in recruitment and they know that one day they want to work for themselves, the best thing they can do right now is focus on their reputation. In every single conversation that you have, if you just do the right thing by people, you're going to just, as a byproduct, build that fantastic reputation. And that's going to be super helpful when you go to set up on your own. I've seen a few people try and set up on their own without that reputation to fall back on. And that's when it's risky, really. There's always an element of risk when you set up on your own, but you want to try and eliminate that risk wherever you can. And that's one of the areas you can. If you are sort of like a couple of years into recruitment, I would say that once you get into like a senior consultant role, from that point, I'd say you'd really want a couple of years in a senior role to get as much experience as you can and as much exposure as you can to how that business runs, how to lead people, coach people, support people, just try and just be a sponge and learn it all. And start at that point saving up, basically. So one of the things that was, I don't know if we would still be here if I hadn't have done this, because obviously the pandemic hit 9 months in, and there's always going to be the economy to contend with, always. But I started saving money to cover 6 months worth of my wage.
You gave yourself a 6-month runway.
Yeah, and as it happened, I stretched it out to 12 months. I just scrimped for 12 months. But without that, I bought myself time there to do it right and not to feel that pressure to immediately bill and make the wrong decisions. Like everyone in recruitment will know that if you're entering a month and you've got your target to hit and you've not really, had any kind of like forward orders and you're going into a month on zero, the pressure that you are then under doesn't actually help anything. It doesn't usually equal the results. Usually when you, I suppose, think ahead and you're always a month ahead, it flows nicer. And it's the same when you set up on your own. You need time to get it right and just to build your clients and do the right thing. So get your savings, get your money in the bank.
Be smart with that.
And don't see the money in the business as your personal. You might get a nice 10 grand fee and think, right, I'll leave 5 grand in the business and I'll take 5 grand out to treat myself. That's risky again, because you don't know what next month's going to look like. So just give yourself as long as you can and as much time as possible.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, early on, just put everything into your reputation.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that. I think that's a great insight. And then definitely I think if you're a senior or in the leadership position, really lean into getting exposure to P&Ls and how different things work in terms of business, and really there's so much experience that you can get from that. And then I guess sometimes it can be overlooked, just be a bit smart. I feel like some people can almost find themselves like, I'm done with this, like I need out, and then they've got a lot more pressure on their back maybe than that was necessary. I guess before we finish then, and I sort of get your thoughts on where this business is going, what you're really excited about, I guess I feel like I may know the answer to this, but I want to ask it because I think oftentimes when I speak to people, one of the biggest concerns they have when starting out is definitely how quickly am I going to be able to sign terms with my first client, do deals. A lot of people have to contend with covenants for 6 months, 12 months. What has been like the most effective way for you to consistently win business and get that first deal done? What ended up really working for you quickly, do you think?
So I was really lucky. I only had a 4-month restricted covenant. I think it was a typo on my contract. They cocked up big time. So I was like so buzzing for that. So I saw that as a 4-month opportunity. I knew after 4 months, all my existing clients that I'd worked with for the last 7 years will be on the phone. So I had a 4-month window there to BD around businesses I've never worked with before. So when I was with my previous employer, I had quite a small patch. So I had half of Lancashire basically.
Oh, wow.
So for that 4 months, I focused on the other half of Lancashire that I'd never been able to touch before, telling them a little bit of just around my story as to why I've set up. And people want to help, they want to support you. So it was just really nice to do that. And that paid off because 4 months in, all my old clients, I rang them straight away. I was like, I can work with you now. And they were buzzing. I'd book visits. Visits is the big one. Just get out there, get in front of them. You'll always win business. But I'd book visits with all my original clients, and it wasn't a problem. It was just getting in front of people. It just works every time. It's just do the basics.
I think it's interesting, right? Because I think you might almost think that being a small little business, people may, I don't know, not buy into that, or you think, oh, I've been part of this established business, so that's why this. But again, when I was catching up with my friend who was saying actually it's been quite, the thing that I've really found is that companies actually really resonate with our story and what we're doing. So you found that.
And do you know what as well? I've asked my clients for feedback on if you were to compare our service to the likes of the big players in the market, how does it compare? And they said, well, you haven't got a big name to hide behind. Your service is, you're exposed and it's all about your service. And if you lose a client, that's your business gone. Not just one client, but you've got to get it right. Whereas when you've got a big name to hide behind, then it doesn't really matter if you screw people over along the way, that business isn't going to go bust. So that's one thing that my clients have noticed.
That is interesting.
You're exposed and you can't hide.
I think you can fall into the trap, can't you, of like trying to overplay what you are before you're there.
Yeah.
Because you can be quite self-conscious of how you're going to be perceived. It's just Phoebe on our kitchen, dining room table, doing this, and they take me seriously.
Yeah.
But actually, if you really own that and demonstrate that, look, this is going to mean a lot to me, it's going to mean even more to me, and then you deliver on that.
Yeah.
It's actually something that people really buy into and actually, like doing business with.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So where's this business going then? Obviously 3 years, second year, had to contend with COVID. You're no longer alone. Yeah. Right? You've got a team that you seem super proud of and happy with.
Yeah.
So where's this business going over the next couple of years then?
So this is we're just about to head into our 4th year. And this is the first time where we've gone into a new year where we've got a team that know what they're doing. They don't really need any more training. We have an ongoing training session every Wednesday morning, which just fills in the blanks, really. But the team are all just set up now just to go and smash it. And the plan really, what we want is, I mean, me and you have talked about having that £1 million company. And I think it is just that vision of that's when you know you've got a really good business. But I want to try and do that with the fewest kind of recruitment consultants I can. I want everybody to just to be absolutely maximising their potential and to be really well supported, and down the line to have a piece of the pie, and to then kind of leave it up to the team as to what do you want to do with the business. Do you want to grow the business? Are you happy with the size that it is? Where do you want to go with it? I'm not fussed. I'll just come along for the ride. I'm quite happy.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what are you most excited by?
Just continuing to enjoy the journey. I'm really enjoying it. Like, I love going to work. So I can't say. I just want to keep seeing where it goes, and just excited about the future in general.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to look outside in where it goes.
Thanks.
I've always enjoyed our conversations, and I think, kudos to you, like, in terms of being smart with your money at the beginning. Didn't know COVID was around the corner. And it seems like you've really grown into leading a team, running a business.
Thank you.
And it sounds really exciting. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you
really
for
enjoyed
having
it.
me.
And
Loved it.
really excited for everyone to listen.
Yeah, fab. Thank you.